Hey, everybody out there. Welcome to another music class here at Know Nothing Music. 30 videos in 30 days on your music basics, and maybe we'll go on beyond the 30 days as well, but I wanted to make sure we do some videos here that can get you started on music class. So we've done videos on rhythm, we've done videos on notes and what songs are and things like that, and we've usually used the whiteboard. Today, all we're going to talk about is what equipment and books and mindset you need in order to be a good music student. So that's basically it. So let's get right into it and talk about what equipment you need. Now, I don't want to seem like a hypocrite here because I have a ton of music gear and a ton of music books. But the truth is about that I don't use all of them that much. You know, I have probably like 8 or 9 keyboards, 12 guitars, 5 or 6 basses. I'm not an octopus, so I can't use all those things at once. And what my general thing is I have my workhorse guitar, bass, and keyboard that I use for 90+% of my gigs. And I use a few different books a lot. I have a lot of stuff for reference downstairs and things that I use for teaching. But as far as my own musical life, I use a small fraction of the things I have. So learn from my mistakes. Don't spend tens of thousands of dollars on these things, and let's get into it. So the number one thing you're going to need to be a music student is your instrument. Okay, whether you're a singer, well, your singer comes with just your voice, but the bottom line is you need an instrument to make music on. I have had some students come to my lessons in person before and try my equipment before they buy an instrument. And I would say that can only work to a certain point. People do this thing where they're like, I want to see if I like the instrument. Very common is the first time you play an instrument, you're not going to really enjoy it because it's foreign to you. You're starting to learn it. And what I would recommend doing, and I'm not trying to waste people's money or waste people's time here, but if you think you want to learn an instrument, I would just go out and buy a relatively cheap one and commit to it for like 3 to 4 months. After those 3 to 4 months, if you don't like the instrument, you can always sell it or give it away or give it to me, something like that. But my point is a lot of people, is that it's not that you're wrong that you do or don't like it in the beginning. It's that you don't know. And usually it's that 3 to 4 month commitment, and it's like making a fire. You're rubbing the sticks together, and no one enjoys the stick rubbing process. What people enjoy is making the fire, and it takes time to make the fire. So all things considered, every single student is different and every single situation is different, but in general, what I would recommend doing is just buying an instrument, committing to it for 3 or 4 months, and take lessons and practice it a lot and see if you like it. I guess second best would be borrow it from someone. But don't just show up once a week to a lesson, try your teacher's guitar, and then not play for a week. What you're going to do is your mind is going to trick you into thinking that you don't like it. That's just what I've seen through music. But so take it for what it is. I do have a lot of, I've taught thousands of people music, and that's just what I've seen. The thing with showing up at your wherever you take lessons and just trying it, then going home and not playing for a week, that usually is going to result in you saying you don't like it or you're not into it or something like that. Number 2, final piece of equipment that I think that one would need is some sort of way of reading music, as in a music stand, or if you're going to use an iPad like I do. Usually that's not for a beginner, but if you want a music stand or some way to prop up your music books so you can see it. I've certainly done the thing where I put the piece of music on my leg or I put it on the chair next to me, and that can be kind of bad for your posture, and I just don't recommend doing it. Now, what I would do is, there's all kinds of music stands out there, and they can range kind of from $10 to $12, $20 to $25, $30 to $35, up to $50, $60, something like that. And for a beginner, here's the word of advice I'll give you. Don't spend less than $30. I mean, maybe you might be able to find like a used one for $25 that is in that $30, $40 range, but certainly don't buy one that's in the $10 to $20 range. Usually it's these little flimsy wire music stands, and they're not substantial. They break easily. They won't support a big book, which we'll get into it for a second. What you're trying to do a little bit is plan for the future as a musician. You may not need it right now. Maybe don't be like me and buy like thousands of dollars of music gear that you never use, but you are in a way trying to direct your path towards the future. Okay, that means buying a music stand that, you know, you're not going to be using just a single sheet of music or a flimsy little book for forever. You know, eventually you might go to an iPad or a thick book, or you might have multiple sheets of paper. You want one that is sturdy, that's not going to break easily. I mean, I just bought a music stand for about $45, and I fully plan on this being the last music stand I'm ever going to need. So, I mean, keep in mind, I'm a professional musician, but as far as, you know, you're going to buy an instrument and you're going to spend probably at least $150 or $200. That's the truth of it. And spending $30 to $40 on a music stand it's not all the money in the world for something that's going to last you a long time. And it's important that you be able to see it properly and all that stuff. So the two pieces of equipment are an instrument and a music stand. And just a quick thing, and I might make a standalone video about the equipment or the things that you don't need. And I'll just say it right now, I don't think that one needs a metronome. At least not right away. I did a video a couple days ago about counting out loud and things like beat placement and rhythm. I tell my students that the counting out loud, at least for the first year, is going to replace the metronome. That might be super controversial. I mean, a lot of music teachers, especially classical music teachers, will require that they buy a metronome on day one or practice with a metronome. I actually do not recommend that. I would recommend just counting out loud, have your instrument and your music stand, and we'll do another video on that another time. Now let's get into books. So the number one thing that you're going to need is a blank music book, okay? A manuscript paper. Now I didn't, if you're playing ukulele or guitar, there's these things called tablature and chord boxes that we'll get into in another video, that I would recommend getting a music book that has both tablature and chord boxes, but both of them are going to have your normal five staff music paper. This is going to be good for writing chord charts, writing melodies, taking notes. It's just, everyone's seen this kind of music paper before. I don't have one that I recommend. Maybe I would recommend one like this that has kind of wide margins, because if you're writing and taking notes, if the margins are squashed together, there's less room for error. So, I would just recommend getting one that's nice and clear. I believe this one's from Peters, and this one I bought for $5.99 right here. You can go on; they're almost all the same, but you definitely want a blank music book, and get it in book form, not in single sheet form. That way you can keep it all organized. You're also going to want a pen or a pencil. I don't know why I use pen rather than pencil. Let me think about it. With pencil, yes, you can erase, but then when you erase, it kind of is scuffed and it leaves these marks. I'm a big fan of crossing out and rewriting rather than erasing and rewriting. Maybe that's just my sloppy style or something like that. But bottom line, you want a pencil or a pen, and I would recommend keeping them together like this. That way you don't have to be fumbling. Where's my pen at? Stuff like that. But that is number one for either a kid or an adult, having manuscript paper, staff paper for what you're trying to do. I teach both adults and children, and the book series that I use for both adults and children is by Nancy and Randall Faber. It's called Piano Adventures. Now, the adult version is called Accelerated Piano Adventures by Nancy and Randall Faber. You can see that nice and good there. And I'll do another video another time about why I use this one and not the others. I've tried almost all of them. All the big ones, Alfred, Bastian, Hal Leonard, and there's a few others. And just over the course of playing out of these books and teaching out of them, I do like the presentation, the song selection, and the order that Nancy and Randall Faber go for these books the best. I'm working on, one of the reasons I'm doing this 30 videos in 30 days is because I'm working on my own lesson method book that I think I can do a little bit better job of going in what I think is the right order. But as far as song selection, clarity of presentation, the order that they do the material, like what you learn in what order. I would give it like a solid B plus for the Faber version, but it's not quite A plus, and that's why I'm writing a book. So the same deal is for kids is Piano Adventures. So it starts with this purple version that goes horizontal. It's the primer level purple, and then it goes to level one. Level one is the reddish pinkish version. And then it goes to 2A, 2B. Here's 2A, the blue version, and 2B, the orange version. And I think it goes up to level 6. And I have not had too many students that get past level 4. It's 2A, 2B, 3, then 4, I believe. I don't think there's a 3A and a 3B. I might be wrong. But usually what happens is, as a kid gets above level 2B and onto 3 and 4, what I tend to do is we tend to kind of work more with the blank manuscript paper at that point, because we're learning, or individual pieces if they're going the reading route. I mean, I teach all my kids to read, but after once we get kind of like to 16th notes and things like that, I usually go in the route of like we're designing our own method right there. And usually what I'll do is, not many of my students if they really struggle with reading music, we'll keep them on this level for a little bit. But usually when I'm teaching kids to read, I'm going to kind of graduate them to the red one pretty fast, unless they're like 4 or 5 years old. Usually 6 and up, I'll teach them everything they need to know about the purple book pretty quick. So my bread and butter is these 3 Faber books right here: the red, the blue, and the orange. And that's been pretty tried and true over about I've been teaching for 15 years, and I've had my technique refined for about 8. So that's what I can tell you about. Faber and Faber is the name of the adult and kids music books that I use. Now, one thing, and again, I mean, I feel like I'm just mentioning other standalone videos that I'm going to be doing. Maybe it's just for my own, note taking and things like that. But another one that I am going to do a video on is lead sheets, and this is called the Christmas Fake Book. I just grabbed the fake, but here's another one, the real book, the jazz real book. That's what I've gotten a lot of mileage playing out of it, jazz jams and things like that. But learning to read a lead sheet, and a fake book or a real book is a collection of lead sheets. And learning how to play out of lead sheets, in my opinion, is more important than learning to read grand staff. Grand staff is reading both hands at the same time. Like I said earlier, I teach my kids and my adults to play grand staff, but in my opinion, learning to read a lead sheet will both teach you how to read individual notes and chord symbols and rhythm. So I always am going to be pointing eventually in the direction of learning and playing lead sheets. So that's the stuff on equipment and the stuff on what books, what materials to use. And we're almost done. I think the final word that I'll say is just about attitude or mindset going into your music classes. And I think that it's important, and there's no way to quantify this or codify it in a quick sentence, but you don't want to set your expectations too high or too low. Now, what do I mean by that? If your expectations are way too high, thinking that you should sound good in the first month, 2, or even 3 months, good meaning like real music, like music you would hear on the radio, or like if you saw someone strumming and singing at a party or just at a get together, why don't I sound like that? Why don't I sound like that? And usually because that person you've seen has been playing for more than 10 years. It takes a long time to get fluid enough to sound like music. So you don't want to set your expectations too high too soon. That might be a way of saying it. But if you set your expectations too low, you're kind of not going to try. And I would say the more common one that I've seen is people setting their expectations too high, and you get down on yourself. You're like, why am I not good yet? Why am I not good yet? And it's that expectation. It's almost a level of entitlement. It's that you think you should be good before you earned it. And what you want to do is actually earn it. And that can take a long time. There's another fallacy there where people get into how many years one have played. But what if you play for 10 years, 15 minutes a week? You're not going to get very good. However, I mean, and this is kind of how I got good at piano. What if you play for 4 to 7 hours every day? How good will you get? How fast? I mean, I got pretty good in about a year and a half. And this is when I'm 35 now, is when I was 24 years old. I got absolutely obsessed with piano, and I played over and over and over to an obsessive level. So this idea of like, oh, he's been playing for 40 years. It's like, okay, but I've met a lot of people that have played for 40 years that still weren't very good, because it's about the amount of hours, minutes and hours dedicated to the instrument. So your mindset should be one of curiosity. Your mindset should be one of hard work, and your mindset should be one of honest assessment of whether honest assessment of your own playing. And that doesn't mean good or bad. Well, the way I try to present it is correct and incorrect. Did I play a C? What is a C, and did I play it? Okay. What is a half note, and did I hold it for the proper amount? And I think most people can do that. Most people, even if they're very, very young, can do that. They can honestly assess whether they counted one and versus one and didn't say and. It's just a matter of opening your eyes, opening your ears, and we, again, might do a standalone video on mindset and things like that. But I think we kind of made our point today. What you want to do music lessons is an instrument and a music stand. You don't want to, for either of them, you don't want to spend too little, but you don't want to break the bank either. You shouldn't be buying an $80 music stand, and you definitely should not be buying like a $500 guitar or a $1,000 keyboard for your first purchase. There's many times that people think they're going to get obsessed with something, think that they're going to get very into something, and they just kind of don't do it, and it fizzles away. So you want to spend, what, in my opinion, $30 to $40 on a music stand, and depending on the instrument, $200 to $300 on a guitar or a keyboard, maybe a little less if you get it used, but that kind of that depends on a lot. I mean, you find it used on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, you can find some really good stuff. Number 2, musical books. You want a blank manuscript paper book, and the Faber and Faber method book for piano is what I use. For other instruments, we'll get into that another time. And then eventually you're going to want to get what's called a fake book, or a real book. What I will do with my adult students that they know that they're going to be playing like pop rock music, I'm going to be wanting them to get a real book or a fake book within the first 3 months. They're not going to be really able to play out of it yet, but it is something that I'm going to be pointing them in the direction of. So, and your mindset, we covered that a couple minutes ago, but don't set your expectations too high or too low. Just learn the material. Open your eyes, open your ears, tell the truth about how you did, and keep practicing and stay with it. Slow and steady wins the race. And that's about it, guys. That's our video, and I'll see you guys next time.